special edition of Truth to Power. I'm your host, Darwin Griffin, and I am joined in the studio by a very, very good friend of mine, a former singing partner. I used to back her up, so she was kind of like the lead. But we sang together in college. And she probably needs very, very little introduction here in the Detroit area. As many of you know, when she says who she is and gives a little bit about her background and her lineage, you will probably look at her and probably say, I know her, and probably will go and grab people in another room somewhere and say, guess who's on TV with Darwin this morning? But I am very, very pleased and very honored to have a Michigan State Spartan alumnus with me. Go green, go white.
That's right.
And her name is Dr. Deborah Smith Pollard. Dr. Pollard, welcome to a special edition of Truth to Power. And that's what makes it very special, because you are on this journey with me as a co-host today.
Well, thank you, former singing partner. I'm so glad to be with you. Thank you for the invitation.
And I'll let you give a little bit of your pedigree in terms of say about all the things. I mean, those of you that know her may know her when it comes to the gospel community. So I'll let you go and tell a little bit about your background.
Well, my gospel community connection is 40 years plus in radio, more than 18 at WJLB FM 98, which is 97.9 now. And I've been for the last 13 years at Mix 92.3. I had a TV show called God Sounds on Channel 4, and we actually won a regional Emmy for a Christmas special we did.
Congratulations.
I wrote a book called When the Church Becomes Your Party, which became a notable book for the Michigan Library Association. And Gospel Fest and the Praise Fest were two of the things that I helped to co-produce here in the city. So that's the short version.
Well, it sounds like there's a whole lot more that probably could be, but because this is only a 2-hour show,
That's right.
we
That's
probably
right.
wouldn't-
And
and
we
then we
got-
couldn't get to our special guest that
That's
we have
right. That's
on the
right.
show with us today.
That's right.
But it is a pleasure to have you on this journey with me today, because the one thing, too, is that when Dr. Paula and I used to sing together, she would always mention she loved some Mays featuring Frankie Beverly.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I thought that when I got this call that Rome was going to be able to do the show with us today, that my first thought was going to my co-host emeritus, and her name is Letitia Sharp. And when I first started this venture with Truth to Power, she was my co-host, and she was also a candidate that was running for Washtenaw County Treasurer.
Wonderful.
And so she was kind of doing dual duty in terms of, say, with her regular job, the campaign running for the first African American female to get elected
Wow.
to the position of Washtenaw County Treasurer. And we are so proud of her and her accomplishments. But she is related to our special guest. And Rome is one of the founding members of the group Mays featuring Frankie Beverly. And what Letitia did was she had talked to her sister, Carnell, and who's the publicist for the new group now called themselves The Music Forever, or TMF. So we're going to get into a little bit of, with them at the same time. But the thing is that she was telling me that she could talk to her sister and see about the possibility of getting Rome or other members of TMF, formerly known as Mays, to come on the show, either in person or by phone. So today we've got Rome, who's going to be on the show with us, by phone today. He's calling in, I believe it's from the Washington, D.C. area, or as some people know it to be the DMV. But he will be calling in shortly. And so what we did was we had asked them to get permission to go and have a intro song for Truth to Power. And they consented. And the song that you hear in the very beginning, this is TMF, or the Music Forever. So if you like this song, and I've had plenty of guests that have been on Truth to Power in the months that we've had this show, and I mean, we've had a variety of guests, as all of you that have watched Truth to Power, from Congressman Jim Clyburn, newly elected senator from the great state of Michigan, Alyssa Slotkin. We've had Jasmine Crockett, the congresswoman. We've had just a variety of people that have come, and when they heard the intro music, they were like, who is that? So now you get a chance to go and hear more about the music, hear more about the composer of the music, and at the same time, too, get an opportunity to go and, if you would like, to call in and ask questions. Our call-in numbers today are 313 area code 868-0342, 313-868-0351, or 313-868-4336. And our website is www.tv33whpr.com. And when we started this show, we wanted to make certain that we had the right caliber of people to be on the show. And as you know, our show is kind of delved between a little bit of politics, sports. So before we get started, before Rome calls us, we want to give a serious shout out, because as many of you know, there is an important football game that's coming up tomorrow. And the nation will be glued to their TV sets to watch the Washington Commanders with their rookie quarterback playing against our seasoned quarterback, Jared Goff, and also Sonic and Knuckles will also be playing in this game, as well as a whole litany of star players for the Detroit Lions. Woo-hoo. So Honolulu Blue and White, we are so fortunate to have a phenomenal football team representing Detroit. And right now, people are saying this is America's team. Have you been following the Lions, Dr. Pollard?
Well,
can I call you Deborah?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely. Let's just say I'm married to somebody who is tied to football. I mean, tied to it. So if a game comes on at midnight, he's still going to be up watching it. Okay?
Well, you know,
doesn't matter.
When I met your husband, I know he's very dedicated to everything he does.
That's right.
And I know, when I met him, I don't know if he still does it, but he was a tailor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he still does some work.
And
like
that's
that.
been many years ago when I
yeah.
first met your husband.
Mm-hmm.
But great man. I mean, and so you say he's glued to the set.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, there was a movie I wanted to see. He said if we couldn't see it Thursday night, then he would not be available this weekend because of the football games. And I'm like, no problem. I understand.
So have you found, Deborah, that you've learned more about football since?
Oh, yeah. Way more. I actually know a couple of names. I actually do. But the main thing I know is that everywhere I go, there's a Lion T-shirt, and people say it's on sale, and you go look at the price and say what now? But anyway, but I just love that there's so many people, even in classes, exercise classes I go to. There are plenty of Lions T-shirts going on, and people just going on and on about the games when it's actually time for us to be moving. But hey, they love it. They love it. And I'm glad that they do.
But it's good to probably be able to exercise and kind of, be watching something, kind of distract
Absolutely.
all of the sweat and burn that they're doing with all the exercising.
Or go to have a dinner and all of the TVs are on and people are screaming as there are touchdowns or maybe not a touchdown. So, yeah, it's fun to watch.
Well, we're hoping and praying that the Lions have a very successful,
absolutely. Absolutely.
postseason. And,
Absolutely.
I think that the thing is that everybody is saying that they're Super Bowl or bust. So,
And if you've got a $1,000 ticket you want to give me right now, I'd be happy to
well,
take it.
it's so funny. I got to give my former co-host that I used to co-host the show with, and that was Livonia Pearman. Livonia Pearman sent me a link where I guess there's now people can buy tickets to see the Lions. And those are some expensive tickets compared to what the tickets were back when people were
Not watching.
and giving tickets away.
That's right.
To
That's
go to
right.
the games. But now that's probably one of the hottest tickets that
Absolutely.
you can probably, how do I say it, not find.
That's right.
You can look at, you can't touch it, but you can look at it
That's
and
right.
see the ticket. And when you see the zeros behind the number, and you kind of like, wow, that's pretty expensive. That's almost you could almost buy a car for that amount of money. That buy one of those Ford products that you see at the auto show going on now this week down at Huntington Place.
And let's just add that other little part. And would you need to park your car anywhere? Because that's going to cost you a little bit of money, too.
Oh yeah, I'll give credit. I know somebody made mention on social media and said that the cost that I think that when she went to the game last week when they played the Vikings a couple weeks ago, she was saying that the cost to park was like over $70.
Yeah.
To park.
I've seen 80.
Yeah.
And people have said, well, as long as you bring all your friends with you, then you can divide it.
Divide it up.
Yes.
So like that $80 would be split. So if you got 8 people in the car, each person pony up $10 a piece, and you all can park right here in this parking
Sure.
structure. So
Because we all have room for 8 people in our car. So, yeah.
yeah, well, you probably have to take, but it'd be nice now if you took a van down there. So
There you
if
go.
had a multi-passenger van
See.
that had like maybe 8 people or something like that. In the
There you
van.
go. Then you could.
That's good to go, or one of those humongous SUVs that could put the little bus that had all those people in there. But the great thing is that the Lions are having a phenomenal season,
Turnaround has been incredible.
and we give all the credit in the world to a lot of people, but we
Yes.
definitely want to thank the owners for getting the players and the coaches
Yes,
to do what they do.
absolutely.
And we're hoping and praying that all of the players and the coaching staff and the general manager and other folks in the Lions administration stay intact,
Yes.
regardless of how the outcome is for this season. So, we're praying that nobody gets hurt, and we're praying too that those that are on injured reserve, that they come back, so that there's no reason why every Lion from the beginning of the season to the close of the season is able to celebrate in a victory. And I'm gonna predict, yes, that they will beat Kansas City Chiefs
Sounds
in the
good.
Super Bowl.
Yes,
So
yes,
we're
yes.
just hoping that all that turns out. But right now, I think the thing is that we just want to, let people know that we are very, very fortunate to have a very special guest that's calling into the studio, and his name is Rome, and I'll let Rome give a little bit of background about who Rome is and the background that Rome has when it comes to currently the Music Forever, but formerly from the group that was entitled the Butlers. Rome, we are very, very fortunate to have you on the show with us today. My co-host today is Dr. Deborah Smith Pollard, and I am Darwin Griffin. But Rome, we are so fortunate to have you call into the show today.
Absolutely.
Oh, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
And Rome, let's just start in terms of say talk about a little bit who is Rome. I mean, we see that name Roame. Who is Rome? So tell a little bit about who Rome is, and tell a little bit about your background and how you got into the music industry, sir.
Okay, well, we can start from the beginning. Like most of us, came up in church. My grandfather was a pastor, and he's one of those singing pastors. So I think that's where I got my voice from. Then growing up, I was in a group with my first cousin, which is John Whitehead of McFadden and Whitehead. From there, pretty much R&B up until 16, 17, 18. I started leaning more towards jazz. Now this is 1968, something like that. It's around the beatnik era, if anybody remembers that. Y'all
You say the
probably too
beatnik era? Like when you say
Yeah.
beatnik, the first thing that I'm thinking about when you say beatnik, Rome, is I'm thinking about like who Dobie Gillis and and Maynard G. Krebs
Well,
and that beatnik
Yeah.
type era like
Yeah,
that
we're,
part.
we're talking 60s, so that was, before the hippies, they were the beatniks.
Okay.
So during that time, I was playing the flute, and my brother was going to a boarding school. I'm from Philly, and he was going to a boarding school outside of Philly. And I used to go and visit him. And there was a friend of his that used to play bass, and he was also the bass player with the Butlers. And he used to tell me, hey, man, when I'm not in school, I'm playing at this club downtown. Come check me out. And I did that. I sat in. Of course, the flute wasn't required in the music they were playing because it was still the Butlers, and it was more standards and during the doo-wop era. So
Now let
after
me
the
ask
set-
you this question, because I want to make sure that's one of the things I do with my show is I like to make certain that when people use terms that people are educated on what that means. And for the few people that might not know, in terms of say, what do you mean when you say doo-wop era?
You remember the groups like the Silhouettes and all the groups from the 60s. I mean, all the recordings, that was doo-wop music. The Platters. I'm sure your parents would be able to relate to those times and those groups.
Okay.
But, it was, for us, black folks, it was doo-wop, and then there was rock and roll, and then there was pop. So before R&B, it was doo-wop. Before James Brown. Even Marvin Gaye was with, I think, the Silhouettes. So that's what doo-wop groups mean.
Okay.
Those groups that have 4 or 5 men, and it was harmonies and a lead singer.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was pretty much a thing throughout, the country during that era. Yeah.
So now you then started performing then with the Butlers.
Well, what happened was, which was really a special moment for me,
Okay.
once I sat in, instead of Frank saying, and I call him Frank, a term of endearment, we were so close, I never called him Frankie. But instead of him saying, hey man, it was nice to meet you, when you meet someone and you connect right away, it's just such a strong vibe, and you feel like you've been knowing them. That's what happened with Frank and I.
Okay.
So he said, hey, I don't need anyone to play flute, but is there anything else you can play? And my best friend played congas, and I used to sit in with him and play while he would take the lead part and I would hold a basic pattern. So I said, yeah, I play congas and I sing. They need me as a vocalist, a background singer at that time. And that's how I began my career with the Butlers, playing congas. But it was something that was always remained special to me because he could have not have said that, and I probably would have never seen him again. Special moment. You know, life is about moments, and this is one that I'll cherish. Because it made a difference. I'd still be in Philly if it wasn't for Frank.
And just a little bit of tidbit of information. We'll give these little tidbits throughout the show with you, Rome. That Frankie or Frank was not his birth name, correct?
No, his birth name was Howard Stanley Beverly. But
Howard
Frank,
Stanley Beverly.
Again, yes, but during, again, the doo-wop era, he was heavily influenced by Frankie Lyman. And he loved Frankie Lyman like nothing else. I mean, that was just someone that he was crazy about. And that's how he adopted the name. Because he loved Frankie Lyman. But his real name is Howard Stanley Beverly, yeah.
Okay. And so now then segue it from then, so after you had the encounter, the opportunity to meet Howard Stanley Beverly, now known as Frankie Beverly, or Frank Beverly. So
yeah, you can call him Frankie.
Okay.
That was just, you know, he and I. It's just and the band Cats, you know, it was just a term of endearment, if you will.
Okay. So how was the first reaction? How was the first encounter with you and the other band members? I mean, did you all click from the beginning? Was there any? I'm not gonna say the word friction, but was there any rivalry between any of you?
No, and that's the one thing that's really, again, since the very beginning, with the Butlers, there was a transition because some of the cats wanted to lean more towards rock and roll, and we wanted to stay closer to the R&B flow.
Okay.
So the Butlers ended up, some of the guys left, and then we transitioned into Raw Soul.
So when you transitioned into Raw Soul, how many of you were there in the group then, Raw Soul?
There's always 7.
Always 7?
Yeah, 7 in Raw Soul and 7 in Maze.
So now, then Frankie Beverly was the lead singer in Raw Soul?
Yes, always. Frank was the lead singer of Butlers, Raw Soul, and Maze.
So now
Those were his groups.
So now you were then, originally you were in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I'm from Philly, yes.
Okay, and then you wound up going to the Bay Area, correct?
Yeah, well, that happened, that's a beautiful story. In 1972, we had played all around Philly, most of the major clubs. We played, the last concert we played was with Isaac Hayes. And we were more influenced by the self-contained bands that were in the West Coast, groups like Sly, Santana, Tower of Power. So we liked what those cats were doing, and that's where we wanted to go. So we had a bus that we converted into a tour bus in Philly. It was a passenger bus at one time, and we converted it into a tour bus. And we used to, you know, go to gigs around Philly, and we decided that we used the bus to go across country. I didn't want to take that long trip, so me and the bass player decided to fly. He had people in Berkeley, and my brother lived in Vegas. So I went to Vegas, he went to Berkeley, and Frank, McKinley Williams, Bug, Frank's lady, Frank's manager, and a few of the roadies. They went from Philly to California, but unfortunately the bus broke down in a rural town called in Stewart, Iowa. Predominantly, well, it was a white town. The engine burned out. They had to wait there for a couple months for a new engine. The adults there, white folks now, they said they walked up to one of the guys and had a white egg and a black egg. They said, here's a white egg and a black egg. We don't do black eggs. So that basically is telling us we didn't want y'all here. Now, this is around 72, during the hippie era. It was the edge of the hippie era. And the kids there were basically from that time, and they were just kids. They weren't racist, and they knew that we were musicians. And when they found out we were musicians, they protested. I mean, and do you know that band? Those cats stayed there for 2 months, and they played. And at the end, before they left, they were inviting the band. Certain families each night would invite the band in to have dinner with them. They had captured the town with music and love. Even so, there was a few of them that went from Iowa to the Bay Area, along with Frank and everyone else that was there. Beautiful story, but again, that was part of the journey. We got to the Bay Area in 72, struggle. I mean, we had some gigs lined up, but they fell through. So it was really a rough time. I used to call
Rome,
back home.
we got to take a commercial break real quick.
Go ahead.
So I want you to hold that, put a pin in that story, because we definitely, our viewing audience does not want to miss any of the stories that you want to tell. So we're going to take a quick break. So we'll be right back with Rome of TMF, formerly Maze, featuring Frankie Beverly. You don't want to miss this.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. Are you living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, or maybe you know someone who's in the same situation? The probate process may be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. We have several nonprofit partners who have free attorneys who can assist you. Contact our office, 313-224-5990, or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. Don't lose your family property. Some of these properties have been in the family for 4 or 5 generations. Contact us now. We're here to help.
Claudine Jackson thought she had it all until she was faced with the challenges of raising an autistic child. Inspired by autism is her brutally honest journey, filled with heartbreak and triumph. Get your copy and find the support you deserve today by visiting www.claudinejackson.tv.
Muscles, joints, or feet tired, achy, or distressed? Tried everything? Ringmaster Rubbing Oil is a vintage topical pain reliever, trusted for over 70 years, with a rich formula for the treatment of stubborn aches and pains. Packaged in a glass bottle for purity, our liquid can also be used in warm water for foot soaks and compresses. A little goes a long way. Try our time-tested formula, available in several sizes.
Make a donation to WHBR TV and receive 2 2-ounce bottles of Ringmaster Rubbing Oil for $25. Call 313-868-6612.
Feel good about your future with tuition-free programs at Wayne County Community College District. Whether you want to be in healthcare, computer science, the culinary arts, digital media, or robotics and automation for the next generation of vehicles, WCCCD has you covered. A full range of programs to achieve your goals, fit your schedule, and give you all the support you need to be successful. All of it tuition-free. Now there's something to feel good about. Register today at wcccd.edu.
Welcome back to Truth to Power, a very special edition with our very special guest, Rome of TMF, The Music Forever, and also they were formerly known as members of the R&B group Maze, featuring Frankie Beverly. Rome, you are with myself, my special co-host, Dr. Deborah Smith Pollard. So we definitely, we're going to have to take some breaks, in between, but we definitely want you to continue. Any other story that you would love to tell, especially, so now we're Stuart, Iowa. And
I
go ahead.
wanted to mention, not only did Frankie welcome me into the band, we lived together from 69 until 72. So we really became very close. I mean, the camaraderie with the band, like you were asking, was there any egos, anything? And all the bands that came throughout Maze, in and out, there was never any of that. No egos. There was never one person didn't like the other. Never. In all the 55 years of me being in Maze, always been some beautiful brothers. And I'm still in touch with all of them. I love these cats. Always will.
So,
They're part of the journey.
So, Rome, if you were to go and give the one word that you feel would best describe Frankie Beverly, what would that one word be?
Love. Love. That's what Frank was, his core, and you could hear it, feel it, and see it when he performed throughout his music career. He wrote about love, preached about it. Love is the key. There's certain songs, if you think about the catalog, most of the songs were about love. We Are One, it's about love. I mean, that was just who he was, and God blessed him with a talent that's unquestionable. And he provided just so many of us throughout the world with great music. And it was just who he was, his heart and soul was the fans. We had such a strong fan base. I mean, it's just incomparable. Nothing like it. We haven't had an album out in over 30 years. We still sell out. It's an incredible, a surreal journey.
Well,
but we were at going from the Bay. We were in the Bay Area in 72. The gigs fell through. We were struggling, and we played clubs. We ended up being able to play around town. We played in a club in San Francisco, and Marvin Gaye's sister-in-law, who was married to Jan Gaye then, would come and see us. She loved the band, and she told Marvin, "You need to come and check this band out. They're incredible." Marvin took his time out, came up and saw us, and he loved the band. crazy about the band, but he hated the name Raw Soul. So we started kicking out names, and I came up with the name Maze. Everyone loved it, and that's my claim to fame. I also came up with TMF, The Music Forever. So that journey ended up meeting Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye was a friend of Larkin Arnold, who was the president of A&R and Capitol Records. We got a record deal, and the rest is history. You know, it was just something, we're so blessed. We have been so blessed throughout our journey, including meeting Marv. He took us under his wing. We opened the show for him. He paid our rent for 6-7 months, bought us equipment. We used to go to his crib and play basketball. Beautiful brother, sweet man. Never forget it. He was just a focal part of our transition and getting us a record deal. Special brother.
Well, Rome, I have a question for you since I'm all about names. How did the name Maze come to your mind? How did you decide to add that instead of cute young men or whatever? I mean, how did that term come to your mind?
Well, at that time, the music was more musical, and in listening to the feel of the song and the music and how it was going, it would take you in and out of different feelings and emotions depending on the song, similar to a maze. You know, you just go through different feelings and emotions. Again, it was about the song. So it made sense to me. And again, it stayed, and here we are.
Good answer. Good answer. I had another question for you about the long history of songs that many of us have loved for decades. You know, this is being recorded, but what are your favorites?
Oh, wow. You're talking about like 10 or 11 albums, so my favorites are probably everyone's favorite. We Are One.
Yes.
Joy and Pain.
Yes.
While I'm Alone.
Yes.
Golden Time. I don't have a particular favorite. You know, I love most of the songs because they just take you in a different place. But yeah, it's just hard to say one. But I mean, do you have a favorite?
All the ones that you named and all the ones that you perform. I will just say it that way. And
yeah,
just,
you know what? If
yeah.
I had a favorite, it would be Before I Let Go.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's a classic song. It's a Maze anthem. And y'all know, anywhere you go, wedding, barbecue, club, you put that song on, everybody's getting up and singing the whole song. It's like a karaoke night. And the funny thing about that song in particular is that that's the most danceable song about a breakup. Think about it. Before I Let Go, he's trying to get out of there. You know, but that would be that and perhaps Happy Feelings.
Okay.
Because Frank wrote that because that was when we met Marv, signed the record deal with Capitol Records, and it was truly Happy Feelings. Mm-hmm.
Great
Most
answer.
of the songs Frank wrote were about himself, relationships with him or someone else in the band. He wrote one for me called You're Not the Same. It's about a girl that we were together and she was cool in the beginning and then changed. And he was a writer about true experience in life situations and relationships, which made him a great writer, along with writing songs about love and togetherness and uniting. And yeah,
Well,
great
Ron,
writer.
tell the story about After the Morning After.
Okay, that particular song, Anita Baker wanted Frank to write her song. And he originally wrote that song for her. But he had remembered Marvin told him once that he said, Frank, if I get a good song, I'm not giving it to you. So it stuck in Frank's mind. And after writing the song, he realized how much he loved writing it as well as singing it. And he kept it. And Anita, of course, was upset. They didn't speak for a minute, but they ended up being cool. But yeah, that's the story of that song. It was written for her.
And the song is more so, is it being sung by a male or sung by a female, talking about after the morning after?
Yeah. Yeah, and the song speaks for itself. You know, will you still love me after everyone? Well, it's a story to the song, and if you've listened to it, it's a love story, love song.
Because that song, I mean, there's a lot of people that sing. The one thing I love with Frankie Beverly and May's songs is that you have all different age groups that sing the song. I was at a Frankie Beverly and Mays at the Taste of Chicago one year, and it was interesting because when you would perform, and Frankie Beverly would take the microphone and hold the microphone out into the audience, the little girls that looked like they could have been elementary school age girls was out there singing the song better than some of the adults were singing the song. So
Yeah,
you've got lyrics that transcended all different generations.
Yeah, and it's so, beautiful to see that we transcend. When you come to a Maze show, you see three different generations. Like you said, you see young kids, you see teenagers, you see mom, dads, aunts, uncles, and grandparents in one show. And that's kind of unheard of, especially nowadays when, you go to a show and the women are just out there basically in panties and bras. So there's certain kids and people that want to see that, but the parents won't allow them because, it is what it is. That's the business. That's the way it goes, and that's the way it is. But in terms of Maze, you're right. And then it ends up being a karaoke night. They sing all of the favorite songs. I mean, you've been to the concerts. You've heard them sing Joy and Pain. And, yeah, Before I Let Go. Those songs are anthems, and people love singing them. And Frank loves to hear him sing them. That's why he puts the mic out there, because he wants to feel that love. Again, that's him, wanting that love back. He lived for that. Not the recordings, not the albums. He lived for the live performances. And to this day, we're one of the baddest live bands of all time. And I can say that. I've been around long enough to be able to say that and stand on it.
Well, that's the thing that today I dedicated my baseball cap to Frankie Beverly today, because I was just going to come into the studio and not have a cap on, but, every time I would see Frankie Beverly, we got pictures that Tim Smith is putting up on the screen, and, the pictures that I see with Frankie Beverly and you, I see you hatless, but I see Frankie Beverly with a hat on. So,
Right.
That seemed like that was his signature, was wearing that baseball cap. So I'm dedicating my baseball cap, and I'm going to lift the brim up a little bit, saluting him. But every time I would see him in concert, you'd either see him in the black shirt and pair of pants, the white shirt and pair of pants, but you always saw that signature, and he seemed like he had a baseball cap for every color outfit that he had on.
Yeah, that was his signature look. And see, Philly was a hat town. We all wore hats, Jeffs and regular hats, the hats that they're wearing now. We were wearing those hats back in Philly. So he always wore the caps, the baseball caps. That was just his signature look, that and the all white.
And see, every time when I see him perform, he always looked like he was always physically fit, because you never saw him in anything else other than the shirt and the pair of pants. He looked like he could go and he could do another set. I mean, he just seemed so energetic when you would see him up on stage. And the one thing I liked about, with Frankie Beverly and Mays and you didn't see a whole lot of everything else other than you saw the musicians, and they seemed like they loved performing to the audience. Because when you would go and see Frankie Beverly take that microphone and hold it out there to the audience, they would look at almost like, hey, Frankie, you could just sit down and take a break, because we got the lyrics, we got this from this point on. So, and they just loved it, and that's the thing, that it was just a love affair between Frankie Beverly, Mays, and the audience that came. Because when I saw a couple of the concerts that I went to, as I was saying before, there were other groups that were performing. When they first opened up a venue here called Comerica Park, they had Mary J. Blige, Frankie Beverly and Mays, they had George Clinton, Parliament Funkadelic, and other groups. But to me, from looking at the people that were there, they really got into Mays featuring Frankie Beverly.
Yeah.
They were really singing the songs. They were looking at their moms and dads that brought them to the concerts, and those little girls was like and I mean, and the moms was looking at just like me, like, how you know these lyrics? And you only 7 or 8 years old, and you singing the lyrics just as good as I do, and I'm like 48, 58, and and it made me tend to think. I was talking to one of our congresswomen here, Haley Stevens, the other day, and I was telling her, there's probably a lot of people that don't realize that they were probably still in their mother's womb, probably were born, and probably when they first heard the Frankie Beverly and Mays song, they could probably sing it verbatim because they grew up in the womb listening to Frankie Beverly and Mays songs.
Yeah, that's so true. And we never needed the major production and all of that. We never did that. We didn't need that fanfare and all. No, we just came out there and did our thing. And like you said, it become a karaoke night, and people just love being incorporated into that. They just love it. And what we want most, and what we do that just touches us and makes this all worth doing, is when you leave a Mays concert, you just filled with joy. You're happy. You mean, these people there that never dance, guys that are too cool to dance, and they're singing and dancing like the ladies. I mean, it's just like when you ever go to those great churches and you got a great pastor out there and the choir is just, making you cry and they just outstanding. It's like one of those church services, a Mays concert. But it incorporates everybody. Everybody's loving it, dancing. It's nothing better than to see people go home joyful, happy. That's what we do it for. It means so much to us, the fan base. Without them, there's no Mays. I mean, they kept us around as long as we're here. Without records, I mean, can you think of anybody that hasn't recorded in over 30 years and still selling out and playing the same songs?
It's so interesting that you would bring up that church connection, because my mother was a minister of music and a pastor's wife. for 50 years, she was a minister of music. She also played for Detroit Public Schools. But because she was trying to be a good first lady, we had never seen her dance anywhere. And then we took her, you guys came to Detroit several years ago. I think it was a historically black college that had you here. And anyway, all of a sudden, my mother got up and started dancing. And my brothers looked at me and said, "Who is this woman? Do we know her?" She was like having such a great time, and we loved it. Okay, so let me get to something else. I saw on the website for the Music Forever, TMF, that you guys are going to England, and you hadn't been there in decades. But you have a great love group there as well. Can you talk about their connection over there in the United Kingdom?
Yeah, we've been there several times. The first time we were there was in '82. I love the UK, and they love us. I mean, it's just a different culture. And what I love about Europe in general is that they're purists. They're music lovers. That's why, jazz musicians go over there and live and stay, and they survive because they love hearing that jazz, the traditional jazz, and it's not popular over here. But the UK, it's just a different mindset. Everything there. I lived there for a couple of years. Love the UK. The only reason why I'm not still there is the commute was brutal. 8 hours every weekend back and forth.
Oh, sure.
But other than that, yeah, I mean, we went back the second time we were there, and we sold out the Hammersmith Odeon. 10 consecutive nights. We broke Elton John's record. So we love it over there, and they love us. The majority of the audiences are at least 90% white, but they treat us just like they treat us here. It's just they hardly ever see us, so we sell out everywhere.
Wow.
So yeah, we're going over there in March, and then we're going back again in August. I think there's going to be a third time. We'll be going throughout the year. But love it over there, and they're crazy about Maze and now TMF.
And then one quick question again. The Music Forever title, the new name for the band, where did that come from? Who gave that name?
I did.
Of course.
I have a knack for coming up with names. I came up with a production company for one of the guys, and guitar player, his group. Just have a thing for it. And the Music Forever is just that. It's a acronym, of course, but the music is forever, isn't it? Think about it. Mm-hmm. Nothing's going to last. Music will last. That's why you can hear hits from 30s, 40s, and 50s today. Universal, and it's undying. Music is, look, without it, think about it, a world without music. It's just something that we shouldn't take for granted. You got people that now want to take it out of schools, and I just don't understand that. But anyway, back to another question of where are we now?
Well, I want to ask you before we got to take a break in a couple of minutes, but I just want to ask you who were. I know we talked about Marvin Gaye, we talked about the Platters, and Frankie Lyman and others, but let's take generations in terms of so during the 70s, you were most inspired by, let's say, what particular groups, and then kind of transcend that into the 80s and the 90s. But who were some of your inspirations that you grew up with? Because I know you mentioned about Santana, but were there any other groups or any other singers that really inspired you, Rome?
Yeah, I had, across the board, I listened to a little bit of everything, and I still do, from classical to jazz to pop, rock. You know, I loved the Beatles when they came out. You know,
What was your favorite Beatles song, Rome?
oh wow, I have so many of them, but I like that Sgt. Pepper's
Lonely Heart Club
album.
Band.
Oh, that was a classic album. But they, just like me, they have some songs, you know, the classics, the standards, Yesterday. I can't just say one of them, but I love that album more than anything because I was doing the hippie era. And Frank and I we were really hippies. In fact, you remember the Love-Ins and the Be-Ins? Frank and I used to go out to the park. Frank would have his acoustic guitar, and I had my conga, and we'd have people come around, sit around, and it's a beautiful time. You know, hippies were about love, and that's what we were about, and we gravitated to that, and we were part of that era.
Yeah,
You
that
know?
was that was a great era because I think that everybody was promoting love and peace, and you know, and not make
Yeah.
war, make love. You know, not
Yeah.
make war.
Yeah.
You know, be peaceful with each other. But Rome, we got to take another break. So I want our viewing audience stay tuned. We've got more with Rome of TMF currently, formerly with Frankie Beverly and Mays, and with my special co-host today, Dr. Deborah Smith Pollard. I'm your host, Darwin Griffin. So stay tuned.
Justice for Mario Willis. Truth. Facts. Evidence. Matter. Log into justiceformariowillis.com. Read for yourself.
Have you ever wanted your own TV show? Have you dreamed of showcasing your talent for the world to see? Well, now you can. Have your own TV show. You can have your own 30-minute show. Not only will you be seen in the Detroit area, but you can be viewed worldwide. For more information, call 313-868-6612. Visit our studios and receive a free TV interview to promote your business, church, or organization by appointment only.
Tune in to the I Love the Hustle show, Saturday afternoons at 12 p.m., followed by Mr. Smooth's Ballroom and Steppers Express Dance Show on WHPR 15.2 Detroit, Apple TV, Roku, and many streaming platforms. See you Saturday.
WGPR Detroit HD2.
You're watching WHPS, Highland Park, Detroit.
Reverend Jim Holly's International Ministries introduces 2 new publications. The Spirit Speaks, 365 Days in Quotation of Affirmation, and A Saved City is a Safe City. Resources and Bible classes around the country. Purchase your book today for $14.95 or receive both for only $27.95. Call her right now while supplies last. Reverend Jim Holly, 258 East Milwaukee Street, Box 27, Detroit, Michigan, 48202 or 313-871-2800.
Truth to Power. I'm your host, Darwin Griffin. My special co-host, Dr. Deborah Smith Pollard, and we are joined on the phone by Mr. Rome Rome of the Music Forever, formerly known as Maze featuring Frankie Beverly. But Deborah has a question that some of our viewing audience has wanted to ask you, Rome, but I'll let her ask you this question.
So obviously you're so tied to music. We want to know, what do you listen to now besides Frankie Beverly and Maze? Okay, what are you listening to in terms of this younger generation? Any names you want to share and tell us why?
As far as the new artists coming up, I don't listen to a lot of radio, and that's the only time I really hear what's going on in terms of R&B. But I love Beyonce, of course. You know, she covered Before I Let Go. I love Mary J. I love some of the rap stuff, more the beats, the grooves, more than the lyrics. Cause you know, some of it is cool, but for the most part, I listen to a lot of the R&B, and I like some of what I'm hearing, but I'm old school. I really am. When I go to my playlist, I still go back to those old school artists, but my genre is across the board. And my first love, when I'm wanting to just listen to music, I'm listening to jazz. I listen to, maybe you're not familiar with, Keith Jarrett, John Coltrane, Miles Davis, Lee Morgan. I mean, there's just a lot of jazz artists that I love and listen to mostly. I still follow most of the percussionists. My first love for percussions was through Mongo Santa Maria. And then there was other Santana. I still listen to them. Ray Barretto, New York. Listen to all the percussionists from back then, and there aren't any too many now, but again, classical music, rock and roll, some, a lot of the artists in the UK, love Sade, Joss Stone, Jamiroquai, several artists over there that I loved while I lived there and got accustomed to hearing. But yeah, I listen to a little bit of everything. And in terms of today's artists, and we played with a lot of them, Anthony Hamilton, I like his stuff. Can't think of all the artists that we play with that I really like, but I listen to everybody, and I have my favorites, and I just stay true to music. I'm a music lover, and if you're playing and performing great music, I'm listening. You know.
And you know, Rome, you know, you mentioned about Beyonce, and I know when I was doing some research that I was hearing that that was one of the first concerts that Beyonce went to, was a Frankie Beverly and Maze concert.
That's right. Correct? That's what she said. She said my first concert was a Maze concert.
Wow.
Yeah, and she's, well, of course, you know, she's a big fan, and always has been. Love her. Love her.
And so when she came to your concert, did you, in terms of say, did he bring her backstage, or did you kind of get a chance to meet her? When did you meet Beyonce?
Teenager. Yeah, she was a teenager then.
Okay.
So we didn't get a chance to meet her then. And we met them, I think it was the BET Lifetime Achievement Award.
Okay.
She was there. And we got a chance to just say hello to her. But other than that, you know, maybe in the near future we can perhaps work together. I know she loves Maze and probably loves TMF as well.
And some of the artists that you have encountered, have they said to you how much they had been influenced by your music?
Oh, yeah.
Can you name some of them?
But, yeah, because See, you know, we're still crossing different generations, and like you said, most people know May's music through their parents.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and growing up, and they're always playing May's music. So you start hearing May's music in the womb, like you said, at an early age. Mom and Dad are playing that, and you get accustomed to hearing the music, and you end up being a May's fan at a young age. It's beautiful.
And you know, it's so interesting too that you know that was a great question, you know, Deborah, because I think that there's so many people. When I first met Deborah, that we were singing together back at Michigan State, and every time when we talked about her favorite artist, the first name that came to mind was Frankie Beverly and Mays. And you know, and the thing is just like, it seems like to me, and this is just my opinion, that it seemed like, and I'm gonna ask you your opinion on this too, Rome. Do you think that your music more so was in your audiences and when you perform? Do you find more males in the audience, or do you find more females in the audience, or do you think it's kind of like even?
No, it's usually more females.
Why do you think it's more females?
I think all the songs that he's written that are kind of about relationships they can relate to. And Frank isn't a bad-looking man now. The brother's a handsome man. So that. And we've always been a good-looking band.
Well, that's what Deborah was saying. You know, why did you call yourselves Mays instead of the good-looking men? and then the same thing. Now here you're still good-looking men, and now you call yourselves TMF. So you know, I mean, it could be the good-looking men. So the TGMs or something there.
Brothers always had good-looking brothers in the band, and I think that's why the majority of the audiences are women. Yeah. But, you know, the men are there, and they show up and show out as well, you know.
Because I see a lot of, you know, it's just like when I was at one of your concerts, it was interesting because somebody had asked me to take them. And, you know, and I'm like, okay, well, you ain't got no argument for me about Frankie Beverly. Now, might have been some other groups that might have been different. But Frankie Beverly, because I could sing along with, you know, like I said, pretty much all the songs that you sang.
Yeah.
And so now, you know, the thing is just like, when you think about Rome, what is the one thing, Rome, that your father or your mother would say to you? Are they still with us, your mother and father?
My mom is, yeah, she's still here.
So what would
92.
You say she's 92?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Give a shout out to her.
I sure will.
What's her name?
Elaine.
Elaine?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So what would Elaine say to Rome right now? If she could go and say something to her son, what would she say to her son Rome right now?
She'd probably say, I'm glad you didn't listen to me, because she was always telling me when we fell on hard times and I'd call her and ask her for money so we can get something to eat. She would say, no, you need to come home. So I think she would say, I'm glad you didn't listen to me.
So those were probably some tough times back then, like you said, in the 70s and during that time. So did you ever want to just come back home?
Yeah, but you know what, man? And it's again, life is about moments, and this is one of the moments that I always cherish. Our worst times, I mean, we lived in East Oakland. It was a 3-bedroom house, and 8 of us lived in it. And it was just, that time in particular was the most fun times I've had in Mays. Because we never felt like we didn't have that. We always were the camaraderie, the family. It was always there. We would have parties. In fact, another beautiful story. We had a landlord. It was an elderly white couple that lived next door to us. And we wouldn't have gigs for 3, 4, 5 months at a time. And this elderly couple let us go for 6, 8 months without paying rent.
Wow.
Because they knew we were struggling musicians, we were family oriented, and we used to, the ladies that were with us, they used to go and help them out, clean their house. We used to use his station wagon to, when we did have gigs, we would use it to carry our equipment around. But we've been so blessed. I mean, it's just been unreal, the blessings that we've gotten throughout this journey. And that in itself, I mean, who do you know will let you stay in their house rent-free? It wasn't free, we just couldn't pay it. And they let us slide. That in itself, and when we hit, we started making money, Frank went back and gave him 10 grand.
Wow.
Beautiful story.
That is.
All the blessings, I'm telling you. We've been so blessed throughout this journey and still continue to be blessed as TMF. And what it is, if you give love, and that's what all God is about. That's all he's ever preached and wanted. And all of us, love. And that's what we're always about, always been about. And the rewards are this. You know, it's nothing more than love. That's it. And when concerts, when you get that back and those people are singing your song and smiling and crying, it's no better feeling on the planet. I'm telling you. I've been doing this long enough to be able to say my best feeling and rewarding feelings is that. Seeing people happy, joyful, dancing. Beautiful thing. Beautiful. I'm telling you. I love it.
And when
Live
are you
for
going
it.
to write? And when are you going to write a book about all of this story, the stories that you have, and all of this inspiration that you have found in these connections with people? No, really.
Yeah, well, there's been some interest in a book, movie, and of course, it's definitely a movie. Think about it: the journey, in Iowa, that Marvin Gaye. It's a beautiful story, and I think it needs to be told. So I'm hoping that I get someone like perhaps a Tyler Perry or someone to do the story, but it's coming. You'll see it in the near future.
So,
it has to be told. This
so
story has to be
Rome,
told.
if you had to look at, piggybacking off her question, if you had to find a current actor that you could feel could play Frankie Beverly, do you think that you might have anybody in particular that you think could play him, and over the different age groups that he represented?
I'd have to give that some thought. I couldn't come off the top of my head and think of anyone right now. No.
That'll be a question for the next time you come back on the show with us. That I want you to think about that. And then the other question would be then too, who would you think that could play Rome?
That's right.
Oh, let me see, Denzel. No, I'm joking. Again, I really,
So you think it could be Denzel's son, and then kind of gravitate up to Denzel now, then, right?
Yeah, I mean, it really wouldn't matter. I'm sure they find the right person for it. Yeah.
So is there any venue or any place that Frankie Beverly, Mays, or TMF would like to perform at that you have never played or performed at?
Well, we performed just about everywhere. We had a great gig in California at the Rose Bowl with Michael Jackson, Quincy Jones, Aretha Franklin, and this was in the 80s, I believe. Yeah, maybe the 80s. And we turned it out. In fact, the next day, all throughout the trades, and they spoke about everyone, but they said, but this new group, Maze, and this was the first album, they said they turned it out. To this day, people still talk about that gig. When you had all of those heavy hitters, we were just coming out the box, you know, and we turned it out. That was a special gig. Never forget it.
Well, you know, and that's so great that here you've got all those, you know, heavy hitters that you know, were performing with, and for them to really speak more about you and Maze and Frankie Beverly speaks volumes to the type of music that you performed and that you sung. And, you know, and I think about you, do you consider yourself more so a gifted songwriter or a musician?
A musician. Yeah, I mean, I write. I wrote a song with Shirley Jones some time ago, and I wrote a song on the TMF album, song Choices. Me and keyboard player and our lead singer collaborated and wrote that beautiful song. And check it out. It's just speaking about everyone's choices that you make in life, you know, and what that entails.
Well, you know, and that's that's the good thing, that here when we listen to you, when we listen to the music that you perform and that you sing, you know, you seem like you stayed true to your craft. And just like how I think when you know, I was talking with someone that was telling me in terms, say, about how Frankie Beverly and Maze stayed true to R&B. Whereas other groups may have delved off into doing some, you know, other things, incorporated rap into some of their performances or in some of their songs, or, you know, more of the traditional type music. You gentlemen stay true to R&B, and that's why it seems like it's transcended over these 5 decades.
Absolutely.
That you've been performing.
We survived the disco era.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
A lot of those groups kind of went that way, and some of them survived, some of them didn't. You know, and even the hip hop, they've kind of incorporated some of that into their music, but we never did. We were Maze, and that was our foundation, and we never pivoted from that. Yeah, you're right.
So, and that's the one good thing, that, you know, when you hear a lot of groups, sometimes people might think that the sound doesn't sound the same as what it did when they initially came out. But that's one thing, when you hear a Frankie Beverly and Maze song, you know automatically who that is, you know, and that's a great testament to you and to the rest of your band, you know, that's something that you guys have stayed true to, and we thank you for being the consummate performers that you've been for all these decades. And you, Rome, I mean, you've been there from the, you know, inception all the way up to the, you know, to the present. And my understanding too is that they, how do I say it, that they haven't really recognized Maze in the past for like having won Grammys or having won, you know, the different awards that, you know, people have given other artists. How do you feel about that? And then I know that there's something that's coming up. I think at the Grammys is coming up, you know, in the next couple of weeks, that you will be recognized. But how do you feel having not been recognized before? Do you feel like you may have been overlooked, or what's your thoughts on that?
No, we're kind of used to being under the radar, because we have been throughout our career. As you notice, you never see us at any of the major parties or anything, or any kind of craziness going on, or no, and that's just how it's been. And of course, we did get the Trumpet Award as well with the Lifetime Achievement BET, And it's sad because, you know, why now when Frank's passed to give him that when he deserved it long before now? And it's so typical, you know, that you give out these achievements and awards and honor them when they should have been included in this prior to his death. If nothing else, I mean, no, we didn't have any albums out where we could have gotten Grammys for that, but certainly lifetime achievement, you know, just make up something. But, you know, after 55 years of music and the influence that we've had on people and also other artists, you would think, other than BET, that we would have gotten that accolade. But it hasn't happened, but it has happened in terms of the Grammys, and we appreciate that, you know. We don't slight that. We're glad to that it's happening for sure. But yeah, we didn't really pay a lot of attention to the politics and that we were missed or upset that we didn't. We just never did, again, because we were always under the radar, and that wasn't important to us. It was more important is performing and touching people.
You know, and that's just so interesting. I'm gonna let Deborah ask you a question, but you mentioned about the politics of music. What were some of the politics of music back then? You know, and even to now. But you know, sometimes when you think about music and you think about musicians and trying to get the airplay on the radio or you know, selling out venues, you know, concerts and things like that. You know, it just seemed like there was a lot of interesting politics that was going on, you know, in the music business. And did you ever have any situations with you and Frankie Beverly and the rest of your band members that may have kind of been concerned about how the politics of music kind of played out during that time?
Yeah, I always had a problem with, you know, back in the day they called it payola, where you had to pay jocks to play your record. And now, I mean, from what I'm hearing, just to put your single in rotation, you may pay up to $5 or $10,000 just to have that played. So I'm not understanding, you know, that game where if you don't have it, you don't hear your record mainstream. I don't get that, and it always comes down to money more than anything else. Not the talent so much. It's your worth. What can you? What kind of money can you generate for me? Do you need to cross over to make this? Now you see the country and western theme changing. You see more black artists becoming country and western singers, which is cool, because I don't knock that, because you can't say, no, if you're not country, you're not country. Well, some of these artists are country and western singers, and they're country folks.
Right,
right. Black doesn't mean, because you're not accustomed to seeing that, you know, and then you got the other thing where you have people from that really don't want to see that.
Right,
you know
right,
what I mean?
Right.
You know,
and you're right on that, Rome. But we got to take one more break, so we'll be right back with you in a second. So give us a couple of minutes, and we'll be wrapping up with my special guest co-host Deborah Smith Pollard. I'm your host Darwin Griffin, and we've got more information, more stories. So we're going to kind of go into TMF in this last half an hour of the show. So stay tuned.
All right.
justice for Mario Willis. Truth. Facts. Evidence. Matters. Log into justiceformariowillis.com. Read for yourself.
Have you ever wanted your own TV show? Have you dreamed of showcasing your talent for the world to see? Well, now you can. Have your own TV show. You can have your own 30-minute show. Not only will you be seen in the Detroit area, but you can be viewed worldwide. For more information, call 313-868-6612. Visit our studios and receive a free TV interview to promote your business, church, or organization by appointment only.
Tune in to the I Love the Hustle show, Saturday afternoons at 12 p.m., followed by Mr. Smooth's Ballroom and Steppers Express Dance Show on WHPR 15.2 Detroit, Apple TV, Roku, and many streaming platforms. See you Saturday.
Reverend Jim Holly's International Ministries introduces 2 new publications. The Spirit Speaks, 365 Days in Quotation of Affirmation, and A Saved City is a Safe City. Resources and Bible classes around the country. Purchase your book today for $14.95 or receive both for only $27.95. Call her right now while supplies last. Reverend Jim Holly, 258 East Milwaukee Street, Box 27, Detroit, Michigan, 48202 or 313-871-2800.
Every Monday through Friday from 12 noon to 3 p.m., it's the Tavis Smiley Show on WHPR TV and Radio 15.2. Also seen on Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV, iPhone, and Android. That's the Tavis Smiley Show on WHPR TV and Radio. Download the WHPR TV app for iOS, Android, and Roku. The Tavis Smiley Show, distributed by RJ Watkins Studios.
Back with my special guest co-host, Ms. Dr. Deborah Smith Pollard, and I'm your host, Darwin Griffin, and we are very, very pleasingly satisfied and happy to have Rome from the Music Forever, as well as the Maze featuring Frankie Beverly. So, Rome, I know we were just asking you before the break. I know that you've got a Special Achievement Award that you're going to be recognized by the Grammy. Can you kind of get into a little bit of that?
Well, Frank's son is going to be there to represent his dad, and they're going to give it to him. I'll be there as well. So we're looking forward to it. I mean, again, like I said, we've gotten a couple awards, and this is just something else. It's a great achievement and a great honor, and we welcome it. We're glad it's happening. You know, even though it's better late than never. You know, that's how we see it. But it's just any time it's an acknowledgement, we're fine with that, as long as people, and now this is going to be national, I mean, all over the world, so it'll be just another way to expose us and let people know who we are.
Well, let's hope that Beyonce gets a chance to come and celebrate, yes, with you all as well, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm hoping I get a chance to see her.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Listen, we understand that you traveled to the Bay to be with Frankie just before his transition. If you don't mind, could you share a bit with us about what that time was like?
As far as his transition and
Or just your being there with him during that last time?
it was hard for me, and they had a life celebration. It's something that he wanted, and it was a special time because there were former members from the very beginning, band members that were there. There were 8 members of the Maze bands that were there. They flew in. Philip Wu flew in from Japan. And we had a great time. We just reminisced. Just had a beautiful time. It was good seeing everybody. I hadn't seen some of the cats in 5-10 years. So the camaraderie was still there. The love was still there. And like I said, I'm always in touch with all these cats. And it was a bittersweet time, but it was something that we all wanted to do in showing our love for the family and our love for him.
Beautiful, beautiful. So how does it
Yeah,
feel
and
to
we're
have
going to
the...
continue his legacy. I mean, absolutely. This is what he would want, and we're doing that as TMF. This is the original Maze band, the band that you saw with Frank. It's all of these cats with the addition of Chris Walker, our new lead singer, he's amazing, pardon the pun, but he has wings on that voice. I mean, the brother can go. Yes, sir.
Well, that's what we were going to ask you about. How is this transition, the second round, going for you and for the rest of the band?
It's going great. I mean, we have an album out that everyone seems to love, and we have some upcoming gigs. Like I said, we're going overseas. People are being really responsive to the new group, and we've done some gigs here in the States that went well. We got a standing ovation in Atlanta. It's a good time for us. We're just preparing for the tour this year here and abroad.
Okay.
And probably start recording the second album, Volume 2. Before the year's out, I'm sure you'll hear the Volume 2 album from TMF.
So is the chemistry different now than it was when you were Maze? Is it about the same?
It's the same because it's the same guy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same band. With like I said, with the addition of Chris, and Chris fit. So, I mean, again, another blessing. And we met Chris through my lady. She was trolling. She does, looking at different whatever she wants to, whatever she's interested in. And she saw him singing Joy and Pain. And showed it to me. And I was blown away. And I told the cats. And so happened that the bass player knew of him. And I didn't remember, but when we first went out on tour in Regina, and we took her out on her first tour. And he was the bass player, and he would sing a duet with her. And I didn't remember that. But our bass player, Bear, remembered, and when it came to my mind that, yes, this is that brother. And he's just incredible. He's done some things on his own. And he goes to South Africa, and he plays in front of 100,000 people. He's an amazing talent. If you can look him up, you'll see. He had a hit back in the day, but he fit like a glove, and we're so happy to have him. But yeah, we're just gearing up for the tour, the next album, and hopefully we just want to be seen. I mean, us as Maze, but we wanted to expose everyone to TMF and hear the music. We're playing Mays songs. All the songs that you heard when we were out with Mays, we're going to continue to play along with mixing it up with some TMF stuff. But you're going to hear those songs. All the classics you'll hear when you come see TMF.
Well, let me say something very academic. Yay! Okay.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yay!
Listen, there's one other question here. You, like everyone else in the band, have been a songwriter. Tell us about the song Choices.
Well, Choices is about exactly that. The things you do, the things you say, or the choices you make that pave the way. I mean, think about it. You can't blame anything or anyone for the choices you made because they're solely yours. You can be influenced by someone, but at the end of the day, the choice that you make in life is just so important in terms of how you move through life. You make the wrong choice, the better decision is don't make the wrong choice again. But everyone has choices, and it's a universal statement and things that people really should think about, and I'm sure it applies to everyone. I mean, yeah, choices. You have to make the right choices and have someone that you can look up to that'll give you information that turn you in that direction of making. It's always about who you're around. The best thing I can tell anyone, in the business as well, make sure you have the right people around you, because people always fall to that, you have so many people around you. Some of them are for you, some are against you. Some of them just want to be seen, that they're with you and you're famous. And make sure you have quality people that just are for you and want the best for you, and not the exposure, not the fanfare, not that. Just keep the right and stay true to yourself. Try not to be influenced by outside noise. You got to stay true to yourself, what you believe, and that's why we've never altered and went in different directions in terms of music. We stayed true to Mays and Frank and his writing ability. It's something that was such a united thing. And when Frank came and gave us songs, he would come as, playing the guitar. And we would fill in, make the patterns, the lines, the grooves. It always has been very organic with us. Frank, of course, was a great writer, but it's always been that, the camaraderie, the giving of the songs, each individual input, which makes the songs what they are. But he's never come to us with a completed song. It's always been that, a united effort in putting these songs together. What you hear on the record is a true testament of that. It's all of us combined, putting our love and what we hear and feel in the music. And I loved him for that, because he could have just given us the song and say, play it this way, like some of the artists do. So, yeah.
Well, Rome is so interesting because there's synergy even in this interview, because as I was just jotting down some notes and I was writing that this was going to be my next question to you, was to ask, what would you say to aspiring musicians or songwriters? And you just spelled it out before I could even ask you that question. And that's the good thing in terms of say, because you're looking at the legacy that you're leaving and the inspiration that you're giving, and there's probably a lot of, as you say, a lot of young cats out here right now that probably are saying, hey, how do I get started? What do I need to do? Looking at some of their influences, just like you were saying, you got, interest in classical and gospel and, those other different, venues and genres. But the thing is that you are really getting your testimony out, and as Deborah was saying, we would be remiss if, number one, we didn't invite you to come back and do a part 2, because there's a lot of other notes that I had, notes that Deborah had, notes that your publicist has given us, about you, about the journey with Frankie Beverly. And, we would definitely love to have you come back to the station. And if you do come, now I'm understanding you might be here in the Detroit area sometime, possibly in the near future. Is that?
Yeah, that's pending right now. Yeah, but I'm hoping it happens.
Oh, great.
And we hope that when that happens, that you will definitely come by and visit us.
Yeah, and I'm down with second half, and what it's doing is exposing us in a way that only you could do, and reach so many people. And I want them to know the history. I want them to feel that everything is what you thought it was. You dig? Mm-hmm. I want them to know that. So I really would enjoy the second half. If you want to do that, just let me know when, and if I'm available, we'll do part 2.
Yeah, because I think that there's a lot of people that have heard and listened to and viewed today's show that probably have more and more questions. I know some of the questions that I've asked you have been questions that people have asked me to ask you. And, one of the things that we wanted to do was to try and give you as much time, Rome, to talk about the experiences that you witnessed, as well as the things that the other band members, including Frankie Beverly, had witnessed, especially back in the 60s, the 70s, and and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the same time too, we would still be remiss if you didn't put this on paper, because just as Deborah was saying, there needs to be a story. There needs to be a music, a musical, or it needs to be a movie.
Yeah.
Chronicalizing your journey.
People that are interested for sure, but that's going to happen.
All right.
And can we get the scoop that when that does happen, that we'll be the first that you'll make that announcement on this?
Absolutely, you have the exclusive. But yeah. I mean, all that's going to happen because that's the way He wants it, and I mean God. It's always predestined. It is, and I know where we're going, where we're headed, and where we'll be. And it's just a beautiful feeling. I'm just in a good place right now in terms of my life, where I am, where I've been, the journey. It's been surreal. But no, I'm living my best life right now.
All right.
Well, we definitely want to thank you, because our general manager, Mrs. Maxine Willis, has been coming in during the breaks and been letting us know that the owner and the president of WHPR TV, Mr. R.J. Watkins, who has a background in music, himself, because he used to, have a couple of music shows here in the Detroit area. And the thing is just that he had told Ms. Willis how much he was enjoying the show and enjoying, the information and especially the history. Because that's the thing, just like with me and maybe other people in our generation, we love history. We love to hear about his story or about her story. And because of the ceiling that, Maze featuring Frankie Beverly, now TMF, may break some of the ceilings that might not have been allowed back in the day, when people were, like you were saying, you had to do a lot of different things to get your music on the air, to, pay DJs to go and play your music and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so, that's the thing that we want to let you know too that we commend you for enduring that. We commend you. I think I was hearing stories about how you take a 5 or 10 pound bag of potatoes and split it between 8 or so people in the house.
Yeah, that's true because, again, it was 8 people in the house, and we used to buy a 5 pound bag of potatoes and fix it every way we could. And when we did have any money, Frank loved liver and onions, and I could cook, so I would prepare that for him when we could afford it. But great times, at the worst times, but they were always loving. We just never really suffered. We just didn't. We wouldn't have that. It's just too much love in the house.
Well, and that's the thing that, when this interview concludes, I know when I talk to people, I'm sure that, Deborah will probably say the same thing, that there's probably questions that we probably could have asked you that we would want to, ask you on a round 2. But is there anything, Rome, that you feel that you'd like to share with our audience? Maybe like a little known fact about Rome or about Frankie Beverly or about any of the other members of either TMF or Maze. I mean, is there any other little known facts about you, like, that maybe some of your fans might ask that question when they go and ask some of the interesting things, like what's your favorite color or something like that? But is there something about Rome or about Frankie Beverly that most people would want to ask, but they don't have the courage in some cases to ask that question?
Well, as far as Frank goes, he is what you really saw. I mean, he was just always had joy in his heart. Just a loving man. I mean, didn't have a lot of things outside of the music. He didn't have any hobbies. Like myself, I love to go fishing, which is what I do in my pastime. And I'm just happy where I am. I mean, if there's anything about me that you don't know, is that my core is as Frank's is. It's just love. I make sure I have people that love me around me, and that includes the band, of course. We have a great love for one another. My lady, of course, my family, but this is all I need. I don't need a lot of people. I just need the right people and the right love. And I'm fine. I just never was a part of someone that needed a lot. I just need just a very small amount of a person's time and feeling and caring. And it doesn't take a lot. I don't have very many friends outside of family, band, best friends, my lady. I have acquaintances, and of course, my other fans, and I call them friends or our fans, part of a family. I include them as well. I mean, when you come out and you spend your money and all you want is to have a great time, and if we can do that, that's fulfilling to us. And if you know or want to know anything about me, as Frank was, I'm to the core about love, treating people the right way, with respect. And if I can get that love and respect, I'm fine. I don't need you to like me or love me, with respect. I stand on that. I always have and always will. And I think that's what we're getting in the long run. It's been a while, but we're finally getting the respect we deserve. We did as Maze, but now we want that as TMF. And I think we'll achieve that with the music and people seeing who we are. It's the same band, same love, same music. And I think everyone will be satisfied and happy. I am right now. And just knowing the potential and where we're about to go in this journey, I can't wait for everyone to see us. And I want to thank you and your staff for having me. I really enjoyed this and looking forward to part 2.
Well, let me just say before we let you go that when we hear from you next time, we want to know the name of that inspirational book / memoir. And we will have an electric skillet here so that you can come on in and show us about all that cooking. That'd be good, too.
And, if you want any of the other cats on, band members, we can do that as well. We can bring as many of them that are available.
We would love to have that. We'd love to get, love to find out. So when you do your liver and onions, that Frankie loved, let's see if some of the TMF members, what your specialty is that Chef Rome does, when he gets that electric skillet out that Deborah mentioned. So, but that would be great.
Yeah, if you want, we can incorporate the cats. I'm sure they'd enjoy doing it. I mean, we've been doing that anyway.
So I guess the thing is, too, is that you might be doing some memoirs, but also have a cookbook coming out soon, too, then, right?
Well, I can cook now. I've cooked most
I'm going to say a lot of men can cook, but, they throw down in the kitchen like that part. So, but I'm going to let you do this in the few minutes that we got left. Give a shout out. Say something because, we definitely want to thank, Letitia Sharp because without her, this would not have manifested. This would not have happened. And so, again, our shout out to her because she was my, co-host. She still is my co-host, and we were, hoping that she could have had an opportunity to been here with myself and Deborah. But we know that being the first African-American female elected to be treasurer out in Washtenaw County was something that, wouldn't allow her to be able to do that with us. And this is the start of her journey, just as years ago was the start of your journey. But what would you like to say to, the Honorable Treasurer, Letitia Sharp? What would you like to say to her?
Well, she knows this. I love Letitia. My lady's sister, in fact. We go back, I've been with her sister for 10 years, so I've known her that long. Beautiful person. I'm glad she's gotten the position that she wanted, and I know she'll do a fantastic job. But I thank her for this. She told me about it, and I appreciate it because we just want the exposure that you're giving us. And I'll definitely call her and let her know it went fantastically. It really did. I enjoyed it, and I'm sure you guys enjoyed as well. But I'll be sure to reach out to her and thank her.
And I definitely want to let you know that any time that you are in the area, we want you to know that on behalf of the Watkins Broadcasting System, as well as our president here, Mr. R.J. Watkins, our general manager, Ms. Maxine Willis, our engineers, Tim Smith, and our person that's all around that does everything in the station that keeps us all on track, Mr. Henry Tyler. We want to thank you, Rome, for coming on the show with us, and we hope and pray that you continue to make music forever.
Yes.
Thank you again, Rome, for coming on the show with us, and we look forward to it.
And
thank you to your publicists as well.
Yeah, thank you and your staff for inviting me. I had a great time, and let's do it again.
Absolutely. We will do it again. The music forever, Rome, and also the memories of Frankie Beverly. We miss you, brother, and we hope and pray that you'll continue to making music in the heavens. You've been watching a special edition of Truth to Power, and we are signing off, and I definitely want to let Dr. Deborah Smith Pollard know how much this journey has meant to me to have you here as my co-host today.
Thank you so much for the invitation. It was a blessing and a joy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And
thank you again, and big love.
Big love to you.
Much love back.